My guest today is CEO and co-founder of Dead Horse Branding, Melissa Core. Now, she heads an award-winning PR and marketing firm in Nashville, Tennessee, and as legendary music producer Tony Brown would call her, the Velvet Glove, a strong punch delivered softly. Now, Melissa Core is anything but ordinary. Her passion is branding, but she has an extremely broad knowledge of every niche of the industry. And she is a female entrepreneur who doesn't take no for an answer. Now, as a CEO and former model of large brands herself, such as Harley Davidson and Victoria's Secret and even Toyota, just to name a few, her unique skill set ensures client success, strong sales delivery, and unforgettable branding. Now, Melissa's passion for entrepreneurship mixed with her branding expertise led her to launch Dead Horse Branding in 2013. Now, in under 5 years, she took a startup company making zero to a multi-million-dollar company. Now, through Dead Horse Branding, Melissa has been responsible and is responsible for managing all of the brand's requirements, from the initial strategic plan through to all of the project's needs and implemented services. And even in 2020, Dead Horse Branding made the top 10 best marketing and publicity firms in Nashville, adding another addition to their strong coat of armor. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome PR Maverick and branding maven of Dead Horse Branding, Melissa Core, to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I heard that you were raised in a caravan with your single mother in Australia. What did you learn from that experience that helped shape you into the successful businesswoman you are today?
You know, you're the first to know that, and you're the first to ask me that question ever. You know, a caravan park is obviously a little bit different than a trailer park in the US, right? And in Australia, the caravan parks are they're a little more uppity. I mean, we had a pool, indoor pool, heated spas. We had a tennis court. We had a BMX track. And so I actually thought we were rich. I thought I was almost in like some sort of castle or compound. It wasn't until I hit about 8 or 9 when my mom met someone and she had decided that we should move in together and move into a house, as she thought it would be better for me and, you know, a home, because a caravan park still has its, stigmas about it. And it wasn't until we moved into the house that I knew we were poor.
So, yeah, because then you lost all the luxuries.
I lost all the luxuries. And I was like, hang on a minute. Like, where's my track? Where's my spa? Where's my pool? Where's my tennis court? Like, I had putt-putt, mini golf. So I was like, wow, we don't have any money, huh? And that was fine, right? That was fine. But around that age of, 6, 7, 8, it's amazing how little you can be, and people's perceptions do start to come in, right? So my little school, my primary school, was across the road from the caravan park. So as I got to kindergarten year 1, and I was pretty young for my grade, the word got around, oh, Melissa lives across the road at the caravan park. And here I am like, yay, I do. But their consensus about it was, yeah, she does. And so I started learning that, there's levels. There's these levels of where you can live. And so that was interesting for a little person to sort of go through that and not really understand, just not understand anything. So it wasn't really until I got out later on in life when you would, meet a boyfriend or meet a new friend. They'd ask you about your life, and I'm pretty much an open book, so I don't shy away from anything. And I would just say, well, I lived here growing up, and they'd stop me. What? You lived in a caravan park? I was like, yeah, and my grandma did. My grandma was around the corner, and then my other grandma was in a caravan park in Western Australia. And then my biological dad was in a caravan park there too. Yeah, we were all in caravan parks. And then I started to understand, wow, okay. But to your point, to your question, the biggest thing I learned from it was the resilience and strength of my mom. Because she came from a pretty good middle class home, right? They were the first to have color TV in their street. They had a pool. You know, they were quite well off. My grandfather was a truck driver for a big Australian company called Brambles. He was away all the time, but he earned good money. And for my mom to have to leave my biological dad the way that she did, and basically leave everything and go and sort of shack up in a caravan, that was huge for her. And so I learned a lot about her through the process, and it just made me so proud. It made me so proud that, you know, anyone in such excruciating, heartbreaking circumstances can pull their life together. I mean, we could have ended up on the street. We could have ended up on people's couches. And even though it was a caravan park, which isn't at the top of anyone's list really, it was my castle and it was my saving grace. And I had the best memories there ever.
Wow. I mean, I understand that, you are a former model and professional dancer that traveled around the world. When did you come to America?
So I first came to America at 20. It was my goal in high school to come to America, dance, do some modeling, and that was it, right? That's as far as my goals went. I was like, that's it. And it actually happened when I hit 20, and I had my 21st birthday in Nashville. And in Australia, you can already drink at 18. So it was really odd coming somewhere and then re-celebrating that. It was amazing. I met incredible people. Nashville was never on my radar. It was an accident. I was actually flown to New York to do some dance work and some modeling stuff out there. And I had a very awesome friend who'd become a really great friend who was buying some of my modeling photos and used to sell swimsuit calendars in the US. And he'd choose models from all around the world. And him and his family had just moved to Nashville. And he said, if you're coming all the way to the US, you have to come visit us in Nashville. And I was like, well, I don't know. Really? Can you come to New York? And so he said, look, I'd love to see you. And if you get into any trouble, give us a call. We'll be here. Well, I got into some trouble in New York. And I feel like so many people would have a similar story. And I gave him a call and I said, look, I'm not really loving it out here. I came over with X amount of money. I got to the airport and that halved because there's a thing called the dollar. And I might come to Nashville. So he actually bought me a ticket and put me on a plane and brought me to his family in Nashville. I mean, who does that? There is not many people that would do that without a hidden agenda. And I mean, he had no hidden agenda. And so I come to Nashville and I met just so many incredible people. My first friend, my first girlfriend was Vanessa Mandrell. And she did not know the success of her family until about that week or two when I met her. Everything was starting to come to the light for her. So I was with her when she was like, yeah, so I recently just figured out my family are quite well known in the country music space. And I knew nothing. I didn't know much about country music at all. I had grown up on certain parts of it. My stepdad's a musician, very big and educated in all types of music. But I did have some knowledge, but I didn't know the Mandrells. And I met her through Craigslist, through a dancing post. And we've been best friends ever since.
It's funny about Nashville. A lot of people still think that it's, the country music capital of the world. And it is, but there's so much more about Nashville when it comes to the artists that live there. There's rock, there's pop. I mean, the list goes on in that city. But I have to ask you, because you and Rick Caballo created the Corello rock fashion label. And I was surprised that it was actually inducted into the largest textiles museum in America. For you, though, how did being a model, a dancer, a successful entrepreneur lead you into the world of public relations and branding?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in Australia, through modeling and styling and dancing and all of it, right? It's all about self promotion. So I left school at 15, and I quite quickly knew that the traditional school path for me wasn't going to work. And unfortunately, in my town, in my city, they didn't know what to do with me. So the best thing for me was to leave and just fight it out. And I literally just would fight it out every day. Um, so I learned very quickly how to become an entrepreneur. I learned very quickly how to do sales, how to get into promotion, how to leverage sponsorship, marketing ideas. And then I obviously had this like mini talent myself. So I was booking myself. I organized my own dance group. I had my own dance team. I was booking the shows. I was doing the choreography. I was doing all these things. And I've had such a passion for fashion, art, and music, mixed with modeling and art for as long as I can remember. You know, I'm that person that walks around and goes, oh my gosh, did you see that girl? She's stunning. Like, or I'm that person that's looking at that new fashion designer that nobody knows of and looking at the cuts, and I'm in the store looking at the fabric. So for me, when I met Rick, who happened to be via the same friend that saved me in Nashville, by the way, I owe him twice in my life. Rick is this super ultra creative individual. I mean, the guy can paint, sing, write songs, direct, graphic design, build tables, structures. He is just like, I wish I could see life through his eyes, right? I get a little bit of a glimpse of it, obviously, but my strengths come in where I understand it to a point, because I am obviously creative to a point, but I'm more on the marketing, sales, and promotion and PR side of it. So everything I learned, I'm all self-taught. I didn't go to school for any of it. It was me pounding the pavement on a daily basis, trying to figure it out. And when I met Rick, he had all these talents, but he was only concentrating on one, music. But he was building himself jewelry. He had these like incredible feathers and metal and leather and cuffs and all this stuff. And I was like, what is this? And we were in LA. It took us both about 7 years to get visas, and just by chance we were moving over to America at the same time, right? Just as we met each other. So we're out in LA, and I'm like, look, here's what I think needs to happen with you. You need to do your music, absolutely. You're amazing at it. But you're so much more. You've got your art. You're an airbrush artist. You're a fashion designer. I'm like, you're this brand, you're this company, you're this corporation within yourself. We need to pair up and do something. And so we did, and we called it Corello. So it's Core and Caballo. Corello. It's not that unique, but it took. And then through that process, we just had people coming to us. And that's the thing about Rick. When you're around incredible creatives and good heart and souls, good energy comes your way as well, right? And so we're getting all these opportunities and funding and investors, and we were like, okay, let's do this thing. So we took Nashville and pretty much created a home in Belmead that had about 12 employees, from fashion designers to jewelry makers. I would wake up every morning and have coffee next to a mannequin. Like, our home was a sewing and jewelry making facility. Everything was made in the US. And so we created this company, and we learned very quickly all these branding formulas, like the business steps, right? What you have to do, the order in which you do it. I mean, we messed up millions of times, and then took one person's advice because they're a multi-billionaire, and then this person's advice. We even met with Damon John, who gave incredible advice. And by the time we got inducted, we finally figured it out. But we were so thankful that we even got inducted. So we were dressing everyone from Florida Georgia Line to Miranda Lambert, to Steven Tyler, to Steven Tyler's band. We were selling in different wholesale stores, online. We were at trade shows. I mean, we were everywhere. We even appeared at Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week in Sydney. And we did so well with it. But it was very clear to us that we enjoyed the brand building component over being on the hamster wheel and actually delivering product all the time.
I get that because, and fashion is a good example that you have to keep up with the changing of the trends, and that can give a lot of people a lot of stress. And
Mhm.
you're right. I can see why you would love the branding side so much more because that's where you step in and really start creating a clientele. So is that why you started Dead Horse Branding?
Yeah, it kind of is. It was that mixed with, we had the pleasure of working with Jep and Jessica Robertson from Duck Dynasty. And we rocked them up Corello style for No Shave November. And the press did well, the marketing did really well. And then Jep and Jess wanted a line for themselves. And they were like, would you work on something with us? So we did. We created Calvary Fashion. And at the time, Corello's at its height, we're creating Calvary Fashion over here. It then reinforced the fact of how much we love building brands. And organically, people just started coming to us saying, oh, who's behind your photography, or who's behind your art direction, who's behind your graphic design, who's behind some of the press, who's behind the social media. And we were like, hello. And between Rick and I, there are 7 formulas to branding, 7 primary formulas to branding that you cannot get away from. And we do 3.5 formulas each. And so we figured this out. And then we started saying, okay, yeah, we'll help you with your brand. And then we realized that people were branding themselves wrong. They were coming to us for a photo shoot, which is number 3 formula. And they hadn't yet done number 1 or 2 yet. And so we were like, hey, I understand you want to do a photo shoot, but did you know you need to do 1 and 2 first before you kind of jump here? And they were like, oh, no. And then these 7 formulas started, we started vocalizing it a lot more and a lot more. And then we realized through these really quite big branding companies that the 7 formulas are not run through the big branding companies either. They only target 3 to 4. And again, it's like trying to say, well, can I drive a car on 2 wheels? It's like, no, have all 4 or just stay home.
Well, so that's the DH7 formula that you go by.
It's exactly it.
And that was all, of course, being self-taught, which I love. I mean, everything that I've ever done has been self-taught. And it all comes down to passion, but at the same time, you have to keep your eyes open and listen to what other people are saying, because when they say something about you, it's a little clue that you're possibly doing something right, and to pay attention to that. So how do these 7 principles come to you and Rick?
Yeah, so it was really a matter of messing up a lot. And, I take pride in that. I take pride in it because, one, if you can mess up and get back up, that's one thing, right? That's hard enough on its own. And then if you can learn from it, and if you can grow from it, and if you can leapfrog onto the next lily pad, happy days. I mean, you're going to have a fun life if you can keep doing that. So it took us a minute to hop around from lily pad to lily pad and go, hang on a second, that doesn't work. That won't work there. Nope, nope, nope. And finally get it, right? And then some of our first clients were really the test guinea pigs for it. And we started to see the brands fly and flourish, and the numbers work, and the fans work, and the sales work. Everything started to churn, and everything became harmonious. And so once we tested that, and continued to do that in the industry and on the street, as I call it, with clients, we developed a curriculum out of it when COVID hit. Because what do you do when COVID hits? You pivot. And we did that, and we managed to work with, in the year of 2020, Kennesaw State University, which Joel Katz has a music business and entertainment program, which is named one of the top 4 in the world for music business schools. And we were able to trial it out with them. And it worked so well that we ended up becoming 25% of their curriculum. And now we're going on several years later, and we do 2 master classes a year. And we have incredible panelists, like finale panelists, that come on and basically judge the students at the end of the brand build. And this is very music dedicated, right? So the students and this curriculum is dedicated to building artists. And they're building the artists through the 7 formulas. But what I love about it is they're learning how to build themselves. So when they come out, just like you, when they come out, when anybody enters this world and wants to be anyone, you're a brand. You know, whether you're sitting behind a desk working for a company or whether you're out in your own, the face of your own company, you are a brand. You are what people say about you. And it's just up to you how big you want that brand to go or how small you want it to be. You're in control of it.
Well, is this so with the DH7, the 7 principles, and then with that curriculum that you have collaborated with Joel Katz with, is this what separates Dead Horse Branding from other PR agencies?
100%. So PR is the 6th formula that we do. It can sometimes be the 5th. It depends on the brand and the strategy and the build. But it's one of our components that we do, and we're pretty fierce at it. It's become one of our main formulas that we do have the pleasure of working with so many talent on. But the other formulas include logo design, the strategy of a company or a talent, you know, what are the goals, where are we going, what is that strategic plan, it's website, it's photography, it's videography, it's marketing, it's social media, it's licensing and distribution. And licensing and distribution meaning sonic, yes, but also product. You know, how are you making money while you sleep? So it's all those things, and you know, dependent upon the year and dependent on where people are in their lives. Sometimes, you know, we're doing like 3 or 4 photography sessions a month. But we definitely have a really big PR component, and that's where I kick in because I'm all about the PR. So Rick and his team really help set up the visuals and what's the story and why. And then me and my team obviously cross over that because it's no good trying to sell something that has no place to be sold, right? And creatives, God love them, but sometimes they create things that are so unique that nobody can really buy into it. So there's this beautiful harmony of me and Rick and these sort of 3.5 formulas each. And you watch it just sort of come through this like system, you know? And it's for me, it's mind boggling because I look back to where I started and I was like, I didn't know I was doing that and that. Oh, and that's where that came in. And there's no way, and I am quite comfortable in saying this, that I would have even figured out these formulas without Rick. There's just no way. If the 2 of us didn't meet, I know I wouldn't be sitting here I wouldn't be where I am. There's no way.
Well, then, because I think my PR list is close to 250. I probably have 100 that are active, but I have probably, and I keep a VIP list, what I call my VIP PR list, that if they come to me, the answer is always yes. If I come to them, it's usually a yes. And of course, it's always in timing. But what does it take to become an excellent publicist?
You don't sleep. No. You know what it is? It's brilliant storytelling. It's not good. It's brilliant. And for me, the way I look at PR and how we've created our PR division, it's not just news and information. It's not so-and-so's released another single today. So-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing that. Like, don't get me wrong, that works at the top level, right? So when we're working with our top acts, yes, absolutely to a degree. If Steven Tyler or Cyndi Lauper or someone's coming out with a new album, absolutely, it's 100% newsworthy. But there are more people in the world doing amazing things than just the top level, right? So it's got to be about the story. It's got to be about what makes him tick. We are known as a press division for the opening of my press releases start with the sound of the song, how it makes you feel, where it takes you, what it reminds you of. I get you in between the melody and the beat before you've even heard it. And I like to pair our publicity division with extreme creative writing as if you were watching a movie or reading a script. That's how we function there. And so that's what makes us different. So being a great publicist is knowing the story, but more importantly, how to pull it out of your customer or your talent or the person or the brand that you were trying to tell the story about. Because, for example, McDonald's is McDonald's, right? We all know who McDonald's is. But do you know there are 20, 30, 40 other stories that we haven't even heard that the consumer would love to hear? And I bet sales would increase even more if you tapped in to these different side stories and these B lines. And so I'm always looking for that. There's a lot of psychology that goes along with being a publicist. A lot, because you're managing emotions, you're managing stories, you're managing people's product and how you communicate that out into the world. And you also have to have quite a managerial position about you. You need to be strong. You need to be firm. You need to take that client where they need to go and make them feel like you're the armor. So it's a triangle effect with psychology, storytelling, managerial expertise, and then telling some good shit.
Yeah. And see, here's the thing that I keep an eye on, because a lot of publicists that I work with don't realize that I'm watching them. Mm-hmm. There are publicists who have, let's say they have a list of clients, and that client list could be 5 to 10. Mm-hmm. But their idea of being a publicist is sending out press releases through, let's say, PR Newswire or whatever, and throwing spaghetti on the wall and trying to hope that some news outlet is going to pay attention and contact them back. I have a way of noticing when the pitches come to me, and I told you this before the interview, I delete 99% that come to me for various reasons. I always keep an eye on some of the ones where I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I would like to interview them, but then I don't pull the trigger because maybe I know the PR firm, maybe they're hit and miss, because there are those that I work with that when we get together, it's bam, bam, bam. It's done. It's scheduled. It's confirmed. Everything is set. The assets are sent and we go for it. Mm-hmm. Then there are those that I know I'm going to just use one firm as an example, but I'm not going to mention their name. So they have hundreds of clients in the television and film industry, and they bring in some of those TikTokers, which I always delete. But so I've interviewed probably 8 of their clients, and they were very, very good. But if they send me a pitch and then I reply back, half the time I never hear from them. And I'm like, okay, I know you're run by a bunch of millennials. So I just kind of discount it. And then it gets to the point to where I don't even reply to the pitch because I'm like, half the time you never even come back to me. So why am I going to waste my time wanting your client?
No.
And so it's a game. It's literally like playing checkers with some and playing chess with others.
Oh, I love how you've said that. You know, one thing that someone said about me a long time ago, and I didn't know it was a compliment until quite later on, was how they love and appreciate our follow-up. And I didn't understand the extent to that. I was like, well, duh. Like, what? I'm trying to communicate with you. Why wouldn't I follow up? Like,
well,
I'm trying to
let me take that, Melissa, because that is the biggest thorn in my side. Now, I have done things with Dead Horse branding, and I actually was telling one of your publicists yesterday, it's the follow-up that impresses me, because I work in 3 industries. There's wellness, there's the recording industry, and there's the film industry. Mm-hmm. Wellness is all competition. Nobody wants to collaborate. It's all about me, me, me. The recording industry is usually, once you get it done, for me, once the interview is done, you hear it's crickets after that. But with Dead Horse Branding, I didn't get that. I got support, which I highly, not only shocked me, surprised me, but I was so grateful, which is why you end up on my VIP list.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then there's the film industry. And the one reason why I love the film industry so much and dealing with publicists, and I don't deal with publicists just in LA and New York, I deal with them in London. And what happens in the film industry when it comes to PR side for what I do, once I do an interview, it's not just, let's say, the film director or the actor that I interviewed. You end up getting the audio guy. You end up getting the composer. You end up getting possibly the colorist, the producer. Anybody that worked on that film is picking up what you did with the director or the actor, and then they're spreading it out across social media going, I worked on that. So the cross promotion with film is 10 to 100 times far greater than wellness is 0, and music is extremely hit and miss.
Wow, that's really interesting, and thank you for all that. And our philosophy, so we as a team even have a formula on how often we follow up with certain people, right? Because not one glove fits all. So for you, I know how busy you are. I'm not going to hammer you every 2 days. That would just really, really annoy you. But there's got to be breathing space, right? And again, so I feel like so much of any communication role, any media role is it's so much about psychology. So much of everything is about psychology. That's from myself, the co-founder, our staff. We implement one rule that has to be followed as a rule or you can't work for us. And that is, you need to be a good, caring human being. Because if you don't care, if you're not good, then you're not promoting, it's a follow on, right? 1 + 1 = 2, not 3. So if I hire people that really just don't care, showing up late, don't care about this formula, don't care about how busy you are, I just need, it's a number, I just need to get another press hit. And I'm like, that's not sustainable. That's not how we operate. That's not right. I don't know why, but I have a really big issue with doing the wrong thing. I have a really big issue with it. Now, that doesn't mean I follow the rules, because sometimes the rules are wrong. And I think I'm smart enough to know which rules are right and rules are wrong. And I'll break the rules if they're wrong for the right. But my point is, my moral compass, again, for whatever reason, that's a whole different episode, I just have to stay north and true. And I want everyone along it. And if anybody feels uncomfortable, if anybody feels disrespected, if anybody gets ticked off the wrong way, I won't sleep. I really won't. I care, we care that much. So when you start from here, the rest should follow suit. I mean, we need you. You need us. We all need each other. You are the final communication point that these 7 formulas have been building and branding to for most people over 8-9 months. Why would you screw up the end result?
Well, yeah. And, and I have learned so much dealing with publicists, but I've also learned a lot dealing with the guest. And it took me a while to learn and to figure out, let's say, and I'm not mentioning any names. I've only had one bad guest, but where they have such a very large following. I mean,
Hmm.
let's say that on Instagram alone, let's say they have 1 million followers.
Hmm.
I have done stellar interviews with people that have a following that big. The chances of, and you have to take it out of your mind that they're going to promote the interview, because the answer to that is going to be no, they're not. You have to come to terms that that's not going to happen. And 100% of the time, I'm right.
It's mind-boggling to me. Like, and you're right. The amount of artists and talent and companies that will finally get them a press break, an interview, a media placement, whatever. And if I'm not running their social media, like they don't post about it. And I'm like, what am I missing here? One, give some love. Okay, say thank you. That's the nice thing to do. And two, this is your brand credibility piece. This is what we've been striving for. And now you just don't want it visible anywhere?
Well,
I mean,
because my deal is this: you come on, you're and the world loves you. They think you hung the moon because you're so great and you're helping so many people. But when I get done, and I know for a fact that it was a brilliant, stellar interview, and they tell me that, and then it's crickets after that, I'm like, wow, if the world really knew who you really were, is how I look
that's
at it.
exactly, yep, that's exactly right. And you
And
know
I don't,
what?
yeah, and I don't ask them back.
No, and I wouldn't either. And I mean, I personally have no problem being a straight shooter with clients or anyone. Not trying to offend anyone, but I and my team are definitely the first to say, you have an expiry date. So, that saying, be nice to those on the way up because they're the same people you'll see on the way down. And it just doesn't make any sense to not, like, it just doesn't make sense. If someone's going to take the time to learn about you and want to talk to you, it doesn't matter if you impact one person. It doesn't matter if you impact just the person you're talking to and no fans at the end of the day. There's so much that can be learned and achieved from just communicating with each other and with people that want to talk to you. Like, I find it amazing if someone wants to talk to me. I'm like, really? That's so sweet.
Okay. I'm going to give you two examples. One, I deal with a stellar PR firm in London.
Mhm.
And so they came to me out of the clear blue. I think it was back in November of 2022. Out of the clear blue, and they said, "Hey, we have a list of Oscar shortlisted directors and their films. Would you be interested in interviewing them?" And I'm like, Oscars interview? Yeah, I will do that. Send them all to me. So
Yeah.
what I didn't know at the time was that every single one of them went back to the PR firm and they go, "Who is that guy? I've never been interviewed like that before. Oh my gosh." So then, little by little, the PR firm was going, "Oh," because I would ask them a question about something and they go, "Oh, they love you." Then from that point on, they were sending me the slates. Like from what like right now we're working on Cannes and the Tribeca Film Festival. I said, look, just stop sending me individual emails. Just send me the slate, and then we'll just schedule the calendar because they trust me so much. But what shocked me is that whatever promotion I do for their client, they take that promotion and they put it across all their social media. 99% of the PR firms don't do that. But I will say this: Dead
And I
Horse
get,
Branding did when I sat down and did an interview with Buck Johnson of Aerosmith.
mm-hmm,
And
of course.
I
That's,
was
why wouldn't
surprised,
we?
Melissa, but so
Exactly.
grateful because it puts you at another level above everybody else.
Well, that's it's good to know and it's sad to know. Like, It's definitely great. But I mean, I'm that type of person, and we're that type of company that if you like, I'll always say this: look, if there's someone on our roster that we don't have, but you're trying to get to someone to interview them, we'll help make that happen. Like, how hard is that?
Yeah.
How hard is that? Now, presuming we have a contact to get you to where you need to go. And if we don't, we'll just say, oh, hey, unfortunately, we're not in that camp or can't help there, but here, try this person. But to me, yeah, I just don't understand that. So, I mean, is this an American thing versus a London thing? I mean,
I think it's
obviously,
well, for some,
is it a cultural thing?
I don't want to say narcissistic because that term is being thrown around way too loosely lately.
It is.
So there is a PR firm that deals with A-list clients. Took me 2 years to get their attention. So one day out of the clear blue, they said, "Hey, would you be interested in interviewing so and so?" I had never even heard of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked him up and I'm like, "Oh, there's backstories here. A lot of them." The interview was so stellar that probably about 2 weeks or so after that, they came back to me and they go, "Hey, would you be interested in interviewing so and so? They always make a great interview." Well, when they told me who it was, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that interview." So for me, it's always a constant auditioning process. But I've also learned too, people stand off to the side and they watch you and they wait until they finally see something and they go, "Okay, now I'm going to contact him."
But you know what else is annoying? And I stand by this: transparency between the PR firm and or managers and the talent. So even though I might say, hey, this media outlet feels maybe a little bit like too low for where you're at in your career, and that can be the case sometimes. If there's only there are a ton of different blogs, there are a ton of different podcasts, and everyone's trying, right? And we respect everyone. But some of those A-list clients, they only have so much time. So it's got to make sense, and that's where kind of a little bit of rules and regulations have to come in. However, I'm not just going to sit there and say, no, they're not doing it. I will always run it past the client, and I'll say, look, here is this podcast. And I'll say, I think the guy's awesome, or I haven't dealt with them before, or the girl's amazing. Like, I'll give, our research opinion and say, look, this is the following, this is where you're at, but don't let the following count necessarily turn you away. Think about the person, think about the host, and I let them make the decision.
Okay, I love you right now because of what you just said. One of the biggest pet peeves that I have dealing with publicists is that if I get turned down by them because of one of their clients is really high profile, and then I look over and I see that same client was doing a media interview on a tier way lower than mine, I'm looking at them like, what the hell is your problem? And but one of the things that I've learned, because like you did, you had to learn on your own. So in this world, we have to learn how to market ourselves, brand ourselves, and some way, somehow get ourselves out there in front of people. I have personal endorsements from Oscar winners. And then I have people that I talk to trying to get a particular guest, and it literally goes over their head. And I'm like, do you realize how deep I'm in that industry?
Right.
And it's just one of those things. But we live in a world of 8 billion people, but not everybody's going to take notice. But see, you said something so vitally important when it comes to the different media outlets out there. My gosh, there's a million freaking podcasts out there. I mean, I was told back in 2017 when I was doing an audio podcast, and they said, well, what are you going to be doing? And I said, well, I'm going to be interviewing celebrities. And they said, it'll never work. And I'm like, well, 7 years later, you were wrong. And because I've already done 400 of them. But For you, you also said something that I was about to ask you, but I'm going to have you go further. Do publicists ever clash with their clients' management? And if so, how do you know what lines not to cross?
That's a great question. All the time. All the time. And not even management, legal. I'd say more or less clashing with legal. So the job of a manager is obviously, as we know it, it's to manage all the pieces. It is to create X amount of opportunities and manage everything, right? Now, not every manager has the skill set of branding, sales, promotion, social media. Like, not every manager does, and that's okay. They don't necessarily need to. That's why they employ people in those areas. However, this is a blanket rule across my brain and the universe. If you don't know a certain industry and you've hired someone to advise you in that industry, and then you go against their advice, to me, that's dopey. I don't really understand that. And in those circumstances, when I know a manager does not have the PR or branding expertise to really make the call, yeah, I'll push back. I mean, I have picked up attorneys from the airport to allow me to have certain clients' statements in with like 4 minutes to the news clock. And I've got to get statements in. I mean, I will push as far as I got to push. Nicely, as Tony Brown says, nicely, to really get my point across, right? Like really get it across. Sometimes it works. I'd say more times than none, it does work, because I'll keep harping on about it. Like I won't really stop, because again, it's the right thing to do. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you've got a client that's done that. There's a negative headline, right? There's a real big negative headline. If your client doesn't respond to objecting to that headline or disagreeing with that headline, well, you as the consumer just watching the TV is like, oh, they did that, did they? Oh, okay, I'll catch that next. Wow. Straight away, my sister calls. I'm telling, hey, did you hear what so-and-so did? Like straight away, I'm going to take, as human beings, we take that message and we start to filter it through. However, if there was a response made by the client in that same news break that says, but so-and-so, rejects these claims and disagrees and looks forward to clearing their name. Oh, well, now the conversation happens when my sister calls, hey, did you see the news thing? Yeah, but they didn't, they denied it. So it'd be interesting to see what actually happened.
Well, see, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that response is so important. Now, whether the response is true or not, that's a different conversation. Nonetheless, if there's no response, so that's a lot of the times when I might be fighting management or legal is trying to get those very, very credible responses out that they don't understand how detrimental it is to the whole brand.
Yeah, because one of the things that I'm really tired of today in the media is clickbait headlines. So they give you the negative. People read the headline. They never, ever read the article. Because the article kind of, may show the positive light, but they got to capture you with the negative first. For me,
and what does that say about us as people?
Says a lot about us as a society. And for me, I would give anything to do a crisis interview, a crisis management interview, because I've seen people who are so bad as a guest. I sit there and I look at them and I'm like, you were not trained. You were not advised. They put you out there to do a train wreck interview, and now you look worse now than you did before you did the interview. You should have already just kept your mouth shut. But there's a way people need to be trained, because in media, you know this, I know this. We control the narrative. And I hate to say it, media is the tail wagging the dog. It's been that way for 50 years, and it will never stop. But we have to man up to create the narrative and for clients to protect them.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. And there's a great media coach we use in Nashville, Bill Cackmus. He's incredible, and we call him a lot of time to do different media training, whether it's for crisis PR or just regular PR. But you're right. Part of the publicist's job is to make sure that their talent or their client does not look stupid on air or on TV or in an interview or anything. You know, there are certain clients that we have, and there are certain clients that that are on our roster or have been on our roster before, and they actually they are just, they're really not good in the public eye, right? So sometimes we will have to have a publicist, you know, on air with them, in the background, on the phone. And we did run into something about 7 months ago where we had a particular client that was being interviewed, and they definitely need the publicist with them, because there's a lot of talking points that can go off, and sometimes the memory might not be there, or sometimes it's incorrect information being filtered. So if the publicist is there, they can take note and just kind of correct it after the fact with the outlet. There's just a ton of different reasons, and it's not for everyone. But this particular media outlet just would not allow, and I mean allow, and this was over the phone, wouldn't allow the publicist in the room. Like in the room, and to the point where it was like, if they are in the house, I'm not doing the interview. And I was like, okay. And from their perspective, they were like, look, I get the best out of the client when it's just them. I'm like, well, absolutely. And as a publicist, you know, we're not sitting on the client's lap. We're definitely off to the side to where, you know, there's no influence there. However, it's for the safety of the client and for the media outlet, because you don't want them reporting the wrong information. You know, there's a liability.
Well, yeah, because
So
I've had
interesting.
I've had publicists sit in
Yeah.
interviews like this. I don't mind it because I know what my motive is. Because after the interview's over, I'm getting the rest of your clients.
Well, absolutely.
I know that sounds egotistical, but I've done this long enough.
Yeah.
And
But no, I
people,
don't think
yeah,
there's
and
anything wrong
people and people trust me, but I don't mind them sitting in. And I think I've only had one guest that
with that.
I did not air the interview because they were
Mhm.
so bad at it.
Right. Yeah. And look, the publicist can't fix that, right? But and look, it's like, you know, there are some media outlets, it's like, do you think we really want to sit there and hear this story again? Like, no, we don't. Like, we've got other things to do. This is not something we're so excited to do and run through the story again. It really is for that protection for both people. And that was a very interesting, and it was a big media outlet. Like, it was a very, very interesting conversation. And yeah, so happens on both
I've
sides.
got a big one. I've got a big one for you because how challenging is the world of social media when it comes to publicity? Because you state the only thing you cannot afford to lose is your credibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've had several counts of rebuilding reputations, and I can tell you firsthand that it is everything. What people say about you in front of you and behind your back is absolutely detrimental to your career. It really is. So the PR component will build and will break you if it's not done right. And if there is negative press out there, it will haunt you for a very long time unless you take care of it properly. And taking care of it properly is by doing critical PR. And unfortunately today, a lot of SEO to get rid of it, move it down. And of course, social media campaigns. And then there's a ton, I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of sort of social media order, like, there's so many automated ways to combat negative press today through social media and Google and the search engines, right? It's incredible. It's kind of scary and it's incredible. So if you do have a negative message around and you're not clearing it, it will haunt you for the rest of your life. And it sucks, but it's true.
It is, there used to be a saying that said there's no such thing as bad publicity, but that was said before social media was created. Now there is
Well,
such thing as bad publicity.
well, but you know what? My brain splits that up. So no such thing. No. Oh, apparently that created a happy balloon fest. Oh my goodness. Okay, no such thing as bad publicity. Okay, so that obviously means that everyone's talking about you, so it's a good thing, whether it's good or bad. However, bad publicity creates bad branding. So the publicity affects the house. And that's where the confusion can be. Yes, once you've had bad publicity, and let's just take, the Jason Aldean thing, for example, that just happened. I mean, that did wonders for his career, right? Even though there was such a negative conversation, but there was also a positive conversation. You had these two sides battling it out. It did wondrous things for his career and for that song. However, you've got to look at the house of the brand. You've got to see what's happening to the brand. So, and that's, publicists aren't trained in branding, and they shouldn't be, right? It's not something they learn at school. It's not even in the curriculum. It's not their fault. The way that Dead Horse does things is very hybrid, very different, very everything touches each other. And I can't help but do it that way because it's the only way I know how to do it. So yeah, the branding and the publicity, two different things.
And you nailed it because you were so right. Because back in the day before social media, branding was only, oh yeah, Coca-Cola is a brand, McDonald's is a brand, but now we can become a brand, and that has to be managed in particular ways because you're right. Yeah, you may end up with bad publicity, but is that bad publicity based on you? Is it going to hurt you, or is it going to hurt the brand that you built? Because a lot of people have lost their careers, which means it damaged their brand.
That's exactly right. And it's how, and you can see it strategically planned out when there is planned bad publicity followed by positive, right? They're on a cycle, like you said, just to get negative headlines, to cut through the noise, and have to do that. It's a marketing tactic through PR as the vehicle. And you can kind of pinpoint those ones that are doing it on purpose, right? When you're in it and you understand it and you analyze it. So the bad publicity could essentially affect the brand, but if you critically manage it right, it could take the brand even higher.
Yeah, and I think there's probably going to need to be a college course on the publicity of the Kardashians. It's a never-ending machine that people wish would end, but even just like in the news cycle now, oh, Kim Kardashian gets booed at Tom Brady's roast, but they removed all the boos before they're going to air the special on Netflix or whatever. But then it doesn't matter. 15 minutes later, there's going to be something about her from the Met Gala. There's going to be something about some other thing that she's doing. Maybe it's Skims or whatever. It's never ending, and it's literally almost every minute of the day. So, like you said,
Definitely
their SEO is getting shoved down within 24 hours.
Well, and that brings me to something I wanted to tell you before. So I do something a little bit differently because I'm so sales focused on the product and on the message at the same time. We do 90-day campaigns, and I don't like to stray from that message within the 90 days because I don't want you getting 2 to 3 different message hits and different blasts about different things within that same time frame, one, I don't know how that builds any message or any person. If anything, when I get that kind of blast, I'm like, okay, weren't you, what now? Now it's too much, delete. So don't get me wrong, there are clients that are like, well, can we do a press release on this? And I just teamed up with this company. Can we do it here? And I'm like, you know what? If it's not time sensitive, let's wait, because planning is just as important to the organizational game as anything else. And again, time sensitive, right? Like, and again, you've got to analyze how big that news is. Is that additional blast or that different information going to lift the product that we're talking about, or is it just going to kerfuffle, and create more noise? And again, you need the credibility and the professionalism to understand that. However, it's something that I think about very, very clearly in those 90-day campaigns. And it's how I feel we're so effective at building our brands, is because we're patient. We're a lot more patient. And at the end of the day, and this one, I love this. Well, the demographic on social media and social media today has us, listening to 30-second clips and watching 30-second clips. And we're in a short, content kind of digital age world. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But when you take that and try to marry it with, but how much is the consumer learning? What are they taking in? And the answer is freaking zero. Zero they're taking in. So that proves that those same 30 to 45 second minute clip, 30 to 45 second clips, they need to be seen still anywhere from 7 to 9 times per the marketing stats for you to remember the person, their name, what they do, why they exist, and what they're selling before you even buy something from them. So what I find funny is how the industry and how consumers have confused that with, well, it's just short content and that's what they want. And it's like, well, no, go back to the promotion, the marketing plan and sales. Don't get confused. So I like to concentrate on that as well.
Yeah, that completely makes sense, because some people are trying to force something. I guess they're trying to change, I don't even know how to put it in the words, just change the graph, so to speak. It's like, here's the formula, like the 7 to 9, that is written in stone. They know that. But then to have somebody else say, no, we're gonna change that. People want super quick content. Really? The platform Quibi, after $2 billion of investment, died because they were thinking the same way. I got their platform, and I think that if they would have focused more, did more homework, it would have probably be successful. And it's probably going to go that route anyway. But they were pushing too quick, too soon, and wasted $2 billion of investors' money, and it's going to go nowhere. But for you, with Dead Horse Branding, do you focus on a particular industry when it comes to clients? Or are you multi-focused with things such as recording artists, authors, fashion, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do cross over a multitude of industries. The formulas don't change, the strategies inside them do, obviously. But I like to say anyone that we can jive with, anyone from any industry. Like we've represented building companies, banks, actors, producers, fashion designers, culinary creators, hospitality industry. So brand building and all these 7 formulas, they don't change. It's just the strategies in them. And it's more about like, how passionate are we together? Like, do we get it? Can we feel it? Like, to be honest, the banks and things, not my thing. Like, like it's got to be a pretty cool bank. This one was pretty cool. It was for the sporting industry. It was different. But we do a ton of fashion, music, interior design, hospitality. But my passion specifically is talent, music, fashion, and art.
So for those looking for a publicist and improved branding, can they just contact you through deadhorsebranding.com?
Yep. And pretty much I sometimes respond on my staff. It just depends who's on Instagram or email at the time. Yeah, I like to just, I'm always, there's a lot of transparency between our company. And I mean, I will get on the phone. I don't care whatever title I have or how many staff we have. At the end of the day, you're getting me, you're getting Rick, you're getting all of us. There's no levels within our company. So if I answer the phone, you get me.
I love that. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you from firsthand experience with Dead Horse Branding, they can back up with what they say and what they do with the dozens upon dozens of PR firms that I deal with on a daily basis. They're literally on my VIP list. And that's a special group of people that, which actually means for me, that I love working with. So if you are a recording artist, maybe you're a fashion designer, who knows? You may want to contact Dead Horse Branding and see what they could actually do for you. So head over to deadhorsebranding.com. And Melissa, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I've enjoyed this conversation with you because I love PR.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed being able to meet you. I know we've worked with you before, but it's so nice to just to get to meet you one-on-one. And I absolutely love your program. And I'm going to be sending you some more people in 5 minutes.
I like that. So I can tell you this, the answer is going to be yes. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the replays of our interviews with the top film directors and producers, even screenwriters, actors, even recording artists, and who knows, top PR agencies, because this one's the first for me, like Dead Horse Branding. Catch more of us or more of me on Bond on Cinema, as well as my television platform, The Dr. Ward Bond Show. You can also catch me as I'm available on YouTube and a dozen audio platforms as well. So thank you for watching and listening. And as for me, I'm either going to see you at the movies or at a concert or from the red carpet. See you next time.